Stan's getting chairs.
Okay, we are now officially back. So if you have been with us, watching us on Amm-Con TV, we appreciate the fact that each of these breakout sessions we go away and we come back and you come back with us. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. So let's go to our slide. And then let's look at our elevator pitch. So the questions are, who are you? What is your product or service? What problem can you solve for the person you're talking to? What is your call to action? And then tell me something that sticks out so that we decide we like you. Right? I mean, because that's how he ends that with a compliment is, oh, look at that. He said something nice to me, so now I guess I like him. So now I am coming right here because you did get the break, and now you're done.
I was just goofing off to Charlie the whole time.
That's why you show.
All right. I am Sarah Joy Albrecht, and I'm the founder and executive director. Sarah Joy Albrecht, and I'm the founder and executive director for Hold My Guns. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we partner with gun shops across the United States to provide voluntary firearm storage during times of crisis or personal need. Our work is helping to save lives, protect property, and preserve rights. And a call to action would be that not everyone has friends or family who are able to help in times of need when firearm storage is needed, and this is an opportunity for our community to take leadership and take care of people in our own community when this needs arise. We can fill the gap and take leadership and really be a beacon for liberty by coming alongside to support gun owners in times of need, knowing that any of us could have a time of need tomorrow that we don't realize today.
So if I can ask a question, what the call to action would be something you want the potential customer to do. What do you want from them? What do you want them to do?
Donate. Because, and that is our call to action, because we, as everyone knows, what we are up against is a solution that involves legislation. And so if we can take leadership and people come alongside with their donations, they are showing leadership that this is what we want to go out. We want firearm storage in all 50 states so that gun owners have a solution, that they're not being red flagged, and that we can support our own people in times of need.
So the call to action would be something like, so can we count on you for a donation?
Can we count on you for a donation? Yes.
Where would you go
that girl? I do.
Right, and then you're going to do all that stuff, right? Where are you going to go?
Go to our website.
Here's the website.
Let me bring this over.
I appreciate that feedback.
Thank you for standing up and saying it. It's not always easy for everybody to get up and say this stuff, is it?
On the mic so they
Oh, I was going to say, you want to say, like, go to our website and donate.
That's good.
That'd be the call to action.
Go to our website and donate.
Yes.
HoldMyGuns.org.
I like the other way. What is it?
It's HoldMyGuns.org.
HoldMyGuns.org.
See, and and I'll tell you, asking for a donation is one of the hardest things that you'll ever do. It's like asking to close a deal, asking for a sale, asking for a donation. When you put in your head that the service that you're providing is you're helping them help others, then all of a sudden it gets a whole lot easier. I can ask for money for other groups and organizations a whole lot easier than I can ask for money for myself. And I know that that's a sticking point. So one of the things is, as you're doing this, figuring out who you're really asking for it for, and get your head around the fact that you're, Sarah, not asking for it for you. You're asking for it for the people that you have gotten involved in the first place.
Yes.
For the people, for the project of your heart.
The kids, right?
Adults.
Isn't it about the kids?
It's adults.
It's the Hold My Guns.
Hold My Guns is for adults.
Suicide prevention.
Go to her suicide prevention. Go to her website because you obviously do not know who she is, and you need to learn
Oh
her
my gosh,
because she is really cool. And here,
I'm getting in trouble.
Sarah, come here.
I'm getting in
Do you have a
trouble.
business card? Because Dan's going to have you on his show when he's all done with this.
I heard it from Minnesota.
Sarah, I
Dan?
thought the Hold My Guns was for people who were not,
So it's suicide prevention for adults who have guns, to hold the gun. So take your card, you write on the back that you're going
I'm
to schedule
sorry.
her for an interview. And then
Forgive you.
But now it's memorable.
and you will then make it where your people know her, right?
I just got yelled at by the teacher. All right.
Okay, so now who are we going to go to? Who's the next? Let's see. Who? Rebecca. Elevator speech. Go back to the slide so she can see the questions. Whoever's running the slide. Yeah. There you go.
I am Rebecca Schmoy. I am a House Rep, and I bring legislation to protect your rights. My call to action is please help support me. You can donate, or you can pitch in with the team and knock doors. And I appreciate you investing in your freedom.
Nice.
You investing in your freedom. Doesn't that make it sound like they've got something that they can do and how much value that has to them? Good job.
Yeah, I would we have stickers that I have in my pocket, individual ones. And basically, I would say, I'm the president of a controversial organization. Okay, what would that be? The Virginia Citizens Defense League protects your right to protect yourself and your family. Here is a Gun Safe Live sticker. Our logos, our website's on the bottom. Join us and help be a part of the solution to protecting your rights.
Help be a part of the solution. You're not a part of the problem, you're a part of the solution. If you join him, you are a part of the solution.
Right.
That is a really good line. That is a really
It's
good line.
something memorable, though. I was always taught when you do the elevator speech to say something memorable. I don't know what that is, but it could be anything,
It
right?
could be anything. It can be. Okay, Nate.
Okay. There's a sticker. Put a sticker on their head.
You're gonna excuse us
Stick their head.
Of course,
I
I
don't remember
remember
occasions.
Okay. I am Nikki, creator of Victim Not. My program transforms lives. What if I can help you make your life work for you? It starts with shifting from being reactive to proactive. Today we change your identity from victim to victor.
From victim to
Victim to
victor.
victor. Nice.
I think that's what just pulled it out of the weeds, Nikki. That. Because you tend to, when you're doing this, kind of go down in the weeds and everybody's trying to listen fast enough to catch what you say. But to go from victim to victor is a really, really good line.
So Philip Van Cleef might also add, when he says, help be a part of the solution, he might also say, be a part of an organization that is so effective that we actually had legislation passed to try to stop us.
Yeah.
And legislation passed to try to stop us.
I would simplify it, but yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they write bills to shut us up. Right? Okay.
We are the Arizona Citizens Defense League. In the last 18 years, we've had 71 good bills for your rights signed by 3 governors. We're the folks who got constitutional carry. And if you would like to be a part of the organization, we empower you by having a system where you can communicate with government for less than the price of 2 boxes of premium ammo.
Okay.
So we help you communicate. We can.
We have a
help you-
system.
Yeah.
We have a system for you to communicate with your government. And if you'd like to make a difference, you can do so for less than the price of 2 boxes of premium ammo.
Well, the one thing that I would say is my head got stuck when you were like, we've helped pass 71 good bills. And I'm like, well, where'd the bad bills go? Right? So it may be that instead of using the word good, pro-Constitution, pro-Arizona, pro-something, so it has a more positive, descriptive connotation than good versus bad, good versus evil, because that's amazing. When I got there, I didn't hear hardly, it was a struggle to hear the rest because my head was going, there's good, there's bad.
I almost always say we're the folks that got constitutional carry. So I almost always include them.
That is a good one.
That's a good feather in your cap.
Charlie?
Sarah Joy and I think you should say 2 boxes of premium ammo or 3.5 boxes of crap ammo.
3.5 boxes. Because people
I'll
will say
take
like,
it
where's
under advisement.
where's the other half a box, right? They'll get stuck on that, right? Okay, so who else has an elevator speech they want to give to everybody? Can I come to you now?
I did write it down.
He's like, darn it, she's got it.
Justin Moscow,
I can't read my writing. I just said it, I can't read my writing.
this is what it's about. I capture,
Ding, 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 you're at your floor. Too late.
I direct produce videos of scripted and live content.
You gotta get closer to the camera.
I'm gonna spot. I'm Justin Moscow and I direct and produce videos of scripted and live content. I can help solve a problem either by ignorance or the issue of lack of manpower. Then you go to my website, gemaudio.co. You can message me to let me know what you need. And then, David is capable of better than Forrest Gump.
Okay.
That's something that's helpful.
What is that? What is that?
Oh, Dave, the tape movies better than Forrest Gump.
So he's saying it needs memorable. Babe, the pig movie is more memorable. Is better than Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
So the one advice I would say to you is when you're saying I do this video content scripted and not scripted, then I would go, I can make you look good.
All right.
Because everybody's fear
On
is,
video.
I take a bad picture, I don't look good, I screwed this up, I'm not promoting my company the way I want to. Who would not buy into a video guy who says, I can make you look good? Sold, right?
Better than you are. Better than you are. I can make you look better than you are.
Somehow that Diane is like,
See, and I just gave Charles a thing about don't say good, and then I tell him to say good. But it's got a different conversation.
Yes.
Okay.
Do new things and meet new people.
I'm here to do new things and meet new people, she said.
That wasn't it.
That's just that is her speech to herself before she goes to speak to us.
My name is Susan Myers and I'm a Second Amendment advocate serving with Women for Gun Rights. I also help women learn to become their own first responders. And it's through that work that I learned that I had a deep-seated passion to ensuring that they never lose that right. I want others to join in this effort to restore the Second Amendment. And please, until we get it accomplished, always remember, hey, hey, ho, ho, gun-free zones have got to go.
Hey, hey, ho, ho, gun-free zones have got to go.
that's good. That's memorable.
She said that on the steps of the Supreme Court, and it was really good. Okay, that was our 5-minute warning for Cam. Now I've got to give Derek the mic, and then we'll see. We'll run up right up to the end.
Hello. Hello, my name is Derek Levon. I'm president of the Kids Safe Foundation. We're a 501c3 nonprofit based in Oregon. So we teach firearm safety and accident prevention to kids. And so we've been a nonprofit since 2016. We've reached over 28,000 kids now in 5 states and taught them life-saving skills on what to do if they come across an unsecured firearm. You know, what makes what we do very, very unique is we actually follow that up and we teach them how to shoot on the range. And it's part of normalizing responsible gun ownership and taking that novelty away from the firearm. And it's going to help preserve our rights going forward. And so we're always looking for your help. Your help can come in the form of either a like, a comment, or a share on social media. That's what kind of helps boost the signal here. Also, you can find us on the website, kidsafefoundation.org. You guys can donate there to help us keep going. And our mission, our mantra is zero firearm accidents is the only acceptable goal. Thank you.
That was excellent. A little long, but excellent.
Sorry.
Because you gotta think about how long are you gonna be in the elevator with them? I mean,
If I hit stop, they listen.
Yeah. If you stand in front of the doors of the elevator so they can't get out.
Exactly. You hold the line. Hold the line.
You hit all the buttons on the line.
I think it's kind of cool that the DC project, when we go to Washington DC and we basically are grassroots lobbying for our solutions, all three of our solutions are in this room. We do Faster Saves Lives for school security, we do Safe Foundation for education, and we do Hold My Guns for suicide awareness. And I don't know, it's a nice thing that we're all together in one room, and it's really nice to be with everybody. We're going next week, or not next week, next month. Pray for no government shutdown, because that might affect our trip. And just for open hearts and open minds, because like I want to go see the czar. I want to go see this new gun czar. And people that are in traditional spaces discourage me. You're not going to get that done. Blah 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 blah. Well, I'm here to tell you that we need to stop thinking like it's been done, it's been tried, and stop doing it. We have to continue to beat our head against the wall, because at some point we're going to run through that wall. And just don't give up. You know, I think that I think we're making a difference collectively. Everybody is making a difference here. And that's it.
And donate to DC Project. womenforgunrights.info, right? No? .org. Okay, womenforgunrights.org. It is so new, but we're good. womenforgunrights.org. Okay, I think we're at the wrap-up stage because we had the 5-minute warning 2 speakers ago. And we've got Cam coming on, so
He's waiting.
Cam is waiting. So we're going to shut down because Cam is way more important than Dan and I. But Dan, I want to thank you for playing along.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks everybody for getting involved.
I love the interactive. So thank you.
Okay. It's getting darker.
Does anybody in here follow the bipartisan?
All right.
I'm sorry, Paul. Does anybody, and this, I should have said this, does anybody in here follow the bipartisan money? There's money, and there's committees, and there's, with the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, is anybody aware of this? Is anybody doing anything with this?
Hang on, I'm coming towards you with the mic.
It doesn't have any, it won't have. It will not let you do anything with firearms. So
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are committees there, every state that is taking money from that bipartisan big bill.
Yeah, the 2022 Safer Communities, Bipartisan Safer Communities Act.
Right. Follow that to your state and see where that money goes and see what the governor is supposed to do with that money and how that money is getting distributed. Because when I found it in Kansas, there was a committee that they had to form. And I'm like, I don't have time to look into that, but if I don't know that anybody in our space is following that money and trying to stay plugged in that way. So just a suggestion.
All right, let's, I gotta apologize, everybody. A little bit long, but in introducing somebody, I like to give a little bit of a personal story. Those of you who've known me for any length of time, you know that I drove truck for 20 years, well, 19 and a half years, darn near 20. And I'm going to go back even farther than that. I'm going to go back to, I was a very young man. I was 22 years old, 23 years old. I was working at a small television station in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, when I got my very first taste of gun rights, when ABC News flashed to us from the NRA annual meetings, Charlton Heston holding up a rifle and saying, "From my cold, dead hands, Mr. Gore." That was my first exposure, really, to national level gun rights. It was not, it didn't really register with me. And then bunch of years later, I got to drive a truck. I started to become aware of gun rights because my wife was home with my kids alone. I was in who knows where. I got satellite radio like a lot of truckers did, and I started listening to this show, NRA News, Cam and Company. It was not live, it was delayed by a few hours, but it was every day's news. And I tell you, Cam Edwards helped this truck driver get a lot of miles down the road. He was always engaging, he was always right on point, and he became one of my heroes. And I'm gonna be honest with you, when I started podcasting, I wanted to emulate a lot of what Cam Edwards was. We got a great Cam Edwards. Cam Edwards still does Cam and Company if you go to bearingarms.com. I want to be Paul Lathrop, but if Paul Lathrop kind of reminds you of Cam Edwards, that would not suck. I've got to walk over here because I got to push some buttons, but in just a second, you're going to see live from, whoa, I got to push some more buttons. You're going to see me, yeah, we're going to see live Cam Edwards from his studio, just 1 second. And Cam, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to bring my mic down and I'm going to put you on the screen.
All right. Well, Paul, first of all, thank you very much for that introduction. I think my hat is fitting a little tighter than it was a couple of minutes ago. Honestly, I am truly humbled by your introduction, and I am really, truly sorry that I am not there in person tonight. I would love to be with you there in Phoenix. As most of you know, I think my wife, Missy, was diagnosed with lung cancer 7 years ago. She is, I know that everybody's curious, so she is doing great, all things considered. That's the good news. Treatment seems to be working. No bad news to report as far as that goes, but 7 years of treatment can do a number on your body. So it's a little bit tougher for her to get around these days. So that's why I'm back here. And again, hopefully next year, she's going to be stronger than she was today, and I'll be able to join you guys in person. But that is why I'm coming to you today from the wilds of Central Virginia, near a beautiful and bucolic Farmville. Which brings me to my next point. No, I don't know Oliver Anthony. So I cannot tell you, my phone blew up almost as much as his a single Richmond, north of Richmond did. The day or two after that song started popping up everywhere, I had so many folks asking me, do you know Oliver Anthony? Do you know him? Do you hang? So first of all, he's like half my age. So we're not really in the same social circles, but Farmville, it's a small town, but it is a big geographic area. We have the 5-county fair, for example. So he lives in an entire different county than I do. Both very rural, right? In fact, I actually had to shut my windows in my studio because otherwise you would hear the tractor pull that is going on a few miles away. I didn't realize that we could hear the tractor pull from a few miles away, but yeah, the sound carries that well around here. Farmville is a great town. We've lived here for almost 11 years. I love the place. It's rich in history, some good, some not so good. It is actually the home of one of the most important moments in the civil rights movement. Back in 1951, there was a high school student named Barbara Johns who was fed up with the conditions of the black high school in Prince Edward County. And she convinced her classmates to walk out in protest of the substandard education that they were receiving, the substandard building that they were forced to attend. They ended up suing. And these cases against Prince Edward County got wrapped into what's known as Brown versus Board of Education. So in 1954, the Supreme Court comes down and says, hey, Prince Edward County, you can't keep doing this. The black kids and the white kids need to start going to school together in all due haste, right? So they gave them a little bit of an out. And years go by, and Prince Edward County is dithering and they're dallying and they're refusing to integrate until finally, 1959, 1960, there was a Democratic senator in Virginia, Harry Byrd, who launched the massive resistance movement, encouraging school boards to shut down the public schools rather than integrate. And there were a handful of schools around the state that did, including Prince Edward County. Most of them reopened fairly quickly. But in Prince Edward County, they kept the schools closed for 5 years, from 1960 until 1965. I didn't know about any of this when I moved to Farmville. In fact, I was talking to a gentleman, older guy, who was helping to build out the studio that we had for NRA News Cam Company at the time. And he asked me if I had ever heard of this. And I said, no. And he started telling me the story. He went to school in a church basement for 5 years. That was his story. His dad, who was an educator in the black school system, was told that he could stay on as a janitor, maybe, help keep the buildings clean. Instead, he ended up quitting his job and helping to teach kids. And it was an eye-opening conversation. Not long afterwards, I visited the high school. It's now a museum. It's the Moton Museum. If you're ever in Farmville, I strongly encourage you to visit. The reason I'm talking about this is because, sadly, we are once again in the middle of a movement of massive resistance to the exercise of a civil right. In this case, our right to keep and bear arms. And this has been going on since the day the Bruen decision was handed down, right? You just can look at New York's Bruen response bill, which was a huge middle finger to gun owners in New York, as well as to the justices on the Supreme Court. Maryland, Montgomery County, Maryland, even before the state of Maryland, New Jersey, Hawaii, California, right? And Connecticut, Illinois, Delaware, Michigan, Washington, Oregon, Vermont, they're all passing various gun control measures in the wake of Bruen that are clearly unconstitutional, right? And the attitude is, well, let the courts say that. But until then, we're going to keep depriving you of your rights. And then we saw Michelle Lujan Grisham escalate things a couple of weeks ago, right? Decide she doesn't even need the legislature. She's just going to suspend your right to carry anyway by declaring a public health emergency. And I don't know about you, but I was very, very pleased to see the bipartisan, not just opposition, but the bipartisan amount of, this is a stupid idea, this is clearly unconstitutional, you really can't do this, that we saw. Everybody from David Hogg to the New Mexico Attorney General. And not only did it leave Governor Grisham there out on a very slender limb, which a federal judge cut out from underneath her by granting an injunction against enforcement, it showed the flaw of massive resistance, that it requires mass behind it. When Governor Grisham announced her executive order suspending the right to carry, she had nobody to enforce it. The prosecutor in Bernalillo County said, not going to do it. The police chief said, not going to do it. She said the state police were going to issue these citations, right? After this rally took place in Old Town Albuquerque, shortly after she handed her edict down. She said that the state police were there and they're going to be sending citations out to those in attendance. And then there was a news story. It didn't get much attention. I think it was the Santa Fe Reporter had a quote from a state police spokesperson that said they had no plans on issuing those citations. So she had nobody behind her. She was powerless. And what could have been one of the darkest moments in civil rights history instead resulted with her doing an epic faceplant there in Santa Fe, alone, by herself, wondering why nobody could get that she was, just wanting to try to do something aimed at legal, law-abiding gun owners, right? So why did Michelle Lujan Grisham do this? I mean, it's pretty clear she didn't spend a lot of time game planning this. She didn't listen to a lot of advisors. In fact, I think it was the sheriff of Bernalillo County said he was surprised by this. He learned a couple of minutes before she made the announcement that she was planning on doing this. It might have been to make a name for herself. There is a part of me that wonders if she is not thinking about being a dark horse candidate in 2024, either for president or vice president. If for whatever reason Joe Biden can't assume that role of candidate. But I think that one of the reasons why we're seeing Grisham do what she did, or Gavin Newsom call for his 28th Amendment to the Constitution, is that the gun control movement is losing. Their dreams of this society where our right to keep and bear arms, where the Second Amendment is null and void, are crumbling before their eyes. And it's not just because of Bruin. You know, you all have talked a lot about this. I had the opportunity to listen in off and on throughout the day. I was in the board meetings for the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, but I was trying to listen to as many of the panels as I could here. And throughout the day, you all were hitting on these things, right? The face of gun ownership in this country, the nature of gun ownership in this country is changing. When I signed on with Cam and Company back in 2004, the vast majority of gun owners looked like me. That's not necessarily the case anymore. Now, the vast majority of gun owners look like you going to the mall or to the grocery store or anywhere else where just, you know, people of all shapes and sizes, races, colors, and creeds get together and do stuff. And that terrifies the anti-gunners. More Democrats are buying guns these days, which is absolutely horrifying to the prohibitionists. Now, they're not all Second Amendment advocates, right? I wish that they were, but they're at least gun owners. And that opens the door, which again, I know is something that you all have been talking a lot about. How do we reach those gun owners without preaching to the choir, without, you know, just spending our time talking to other Second Amendment activists, but how do we reach those who are reachable? To get them involved, to get them engaged, to help them understand the importance of the moment that we are in right now. This is the civil rights fight for our time. Look at the decision that Judge Benitez handed down in Duncan versus Bonta a few hours ago. I have not had a chance to read the entirety of the decision in depth, but I've had about a 45 minutes or so to just do a quick read through, and it is there's a reason why Roger Benitez is known as Saint Benitez. I mean, he's not only does he deliver good decisions, but he delivers good decisions, right? There's a lot to read and unpack in these things. And in Duncan versus Bonta, he talks about the civil rights nature of our right to keep and bear arms. He said the Supreme Court gave the most explicit evidence that the right to keep and bear arms was regarded as a fundamental right in the Freedmen's Bureau Act of 1866. And he quotes the McDonald opinion, in which the Supreme Court said the most explicit evidence of Congress's aim appears in Section 14 of the Freedmen's Bureau Act of 1866, which provided that, quote, the right to have full and equal benefit of all laws and proceedings concerning personal liberty, personal security, and including the constitutional right to bear arms, shall be secured to and enjoyed by all the citizens. Judge Benitez goes on to say, McDonald points to one senator's description of the right to bear arms for one's defense as an indefensible safeguard of liberty. Quoting, every man should have the right to bear arms for the defense of himself and family and his homestead. And if the cabin door of the freedman is broken open and the intruder enters for purposes as vile as were known to slavery, then should a well-loaded musket be in the hand of the occupant to send the polluted wretch to another world, where his wretchedness will forever remain complete. A generation later, it was Ida Wells talking about the Winchester rifle that deserved a place of honor in every black family's home. The right to keep and bear arms and the fight for full and equal rights for all Americans has been intertwined throughout our nation's history. And that remains true today. In fact, also in the Duncan opinion, Judge Benitez called out the attorneys for the Cal DOJ when they listed off all of their historic analogs, right? This is why we should be able to ban magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. As Judge Benitez says, 2/3 of the state's list of 199 laws are restrictions on use, not on possession or acquisition. 22 laws are included in the state's historical, 22 tax laws are included in the state's historical list, yet the law challenged here imposes no tax on magazines. And then he says the state's historical list also includes, surprisingly, 38 laws that applied only to particular groups, such as slaves, blacks, or mulattoes. Those laws, Benitez writes, aren't even relevant to the magazine prohibition challenged in this case. He says in founding era statutes that disarmed groups of persons whose governments thought might be dangerous because of their race or religion, not considered analogous to modern carry prohibitions on released felons, also thought to be dangerous. Any such analogy would be far too broad. And that quoting the Baird decision. He goes on to say in his own words, even if they were, this court would give such discriminatory laws little to no weight. And yet, these are the laws that give weight to the modern gun control movement, right? You know, they shut down the schools in Prince Edward County for 5 years. But they didn't win. They lost bigly, as Donald Trump would say. Not only are schools integrated, society is integrated. The very worst fears of the segregationists have come true in Farmville and elsewhere around the country. Black and white students are making friends. They're hanging out. They're dating. They might even get married and have children. And you know what? The world keeps turning. And I think it's a better place for it. If Brown versus Board of Education signaled the death knell of Jim Crow government and culture, then I think it's up to us that Bruin signals, if not the ultimate demise, then the marginalization of the gun prohibition movement and the cultural taboo surrounding gun ownership. And the good news is that we don't face nearly the struggle that civil rights activists like Barbara Johns did in the 1950s and 60s. The gun control lobby is not as entrenched across the United States as Jim Crow was in the South. And we just saw in Albuquerque, again, hundreds of gun owners can turn out in open defiance of a governor's unconstitutional order and nothing happens. Not only do they not have the police dogs turned on them, they don't have the fire hoses turned on them. Right? This is the civil rights fight for our time, but it is not an exact historic analog to the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. But I do worry, and I get the sense that, again, having listened to some of these panels throughout the day, that at least some of you are worried about this as well, that there are would-be activists out there who, it's not that we haven't reached them. We have reached them, but they're scared. They're scared to lend their voice. They're scared to stand up. They're scared to show up in Old Town Albuquerque. They're scared to go to the Boston Common next week to fight against 4420. They're scared to put themselves out there. They're worried that the government's going to put them on a list. They're worried about surveillance. They're worried about what might happen to them. And again, when you've got sitting governors like Lujan Grisham saying, you know what, I am coming after you. It's not an unreasonable concern. But the question is, at what point are you willing to stand up? And how do we get these folks to stand up now when the cost is not that great and the risk is not that large? Because if we don't and our winning turns to losing, then all of a sudden the stakes get much higher. Do you stand up now? When, again, the potential punishment might be the government put you on a list. By the way, we're probably all on the list already. Do you wait until it's a felony for you to exercise your right to keep and bear arms, when the risk, again, is not being put on a list or being possibly subject to fines, but spending 5 years in prison? I think we need to convince those on the sidelines that now is the time to stand up and be counted. It is the time to speak up and speak out. Paul, when he was introducing me, talked about his first exposure to sort of the pro-Second Amendment movement being Charlton Heston, right, from My Cold Dead Hands. And that was an iconic moment. But the moment of Charlton Heston's that I didn't witness it in person, but it has stuck with me ever since I first saw this speech and read it a few years after he gave it. In 1999, he gave a speech at Harvard Law. And it may be, I mean, Heston could give a good speech. And this might be just one of the finest discourses on individual freedom that I have ever heard. I cannot channel his gravitas, but I want to quote just a little bit to you. He was talking about standing up to political correctness in particular against the push to tell you what to think, what to say, and what to feel. But I think it applies to this moment in time too. He said, how can anyone prevail against such pervasive social subjugation, or in this case, legal subjugation against our right to keep and bear arms? He said, the answer's been here all along. I learned it 36 years ago on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., standing with Dr. Martin Luther King and 200,000 people. You simply disobey. Peaceably, yes. Respectfully, of course. Nonviolently, absolutely. But when told how to think, or what to say, or how to behave, we don't. We disobey the social protocol that stifles and stigmatizes personal freedom. Heston said, I learned the awesome power of disobedience from Dr. King, who learned it from Gandhi and Thoreau and Jesus and every other great man who led those in the right against those with the might. Disobedience is in our DNA. We feel innate kinship with that disobedient spirit that tossed tea into Boston Harbor, that sent Thoreau to jail, that refused to sit in the back of the bus, that protested a war in Vietnam. And he told those Harvard Law students, in that same spirit, I'm asking you to disavow cultural correctness with massive disobedience of rogue authority, social directives, and onerous laws that weaken personal freedom. But be careful, he admonished them. It hurts. Disobedience demands that you put yourself at risk. Dr. King stood on lots of balconies. You be humiliated. Endure the modern day equivalent of the police dogs at Montgomery and the water cannons at Selma. You must be willing to experience discomfort. Now, don't take this as a call to, Leroy Jenkins your way into a state capitol open carrying a short barrel rifle. That's not what I'm talking about. But I do think, and again, this is something that I've heard throughout today. I think you're going to be hearing some of this at GRPC over the weekend. The civil rights movement in the 1950s and 1960s deployed strategies and tactics that were loosely coordinated between groups. Sometimes they were complementing each other. Sometimes they were at odds with each other. But there was this at least attempt to build these alliances, right? To grow a movement, to not be so siloed. And that was tough because Jim Crow wanted to silo activists. They didn't want activists in Montgomery talking to activists in Atlanta, talking to activists in Birmingham. They didn't want that. And the gun control lobby today and the anti-gun politicians today don't want us doing it either. They would like to keep us away from each other. They would like to keep us pointing fingers at each other whenever possible. And, it's also just sometimes difficult asking a large group of individuals to come together under this common banner, right? It's like herding cats. It's just difficult to do. Won't be easy. Sometimes it might not be possible. But, again, I think we all know that if we're working towards this common goal, then hopefully those fractious moments, those moments where we are at odds with each other, are going to be few and far between. And in the meantime, we're going to be far more effective at defending our right to keep and bear arms. And that, again, is ultimately what it's about. I was John Correa earlier today talking about, if you're in this for the money, if you're in this to get rich, if you're in this for, to become famous, don't do it, right? But if you're in this because you're passionate, if you're in this because you care deeply about freedom, then talk to whoever is listening. And if you're listening right now, you clearly care about your right to keep and bear arms. You clearly care about freedom. I would say you are in it for the right reason. If you're there and you haven't hit the bar yet, after almost 8 hours of speeches, I'm going to assume that you're committed. And I thank you for that. And I hope that you will take all of this fire hose of information that's being directed at your way today, tomorrow, and Sunday. And when you go back home, you will keep those connections. Maybe they might be tenuous now, but you'll, again, establish that relationship with the person sitting next to you, the person you strike up a conversation with over breakfast tomorrow. And we can forge these connections again, into links across the country that bind us together in defense of our right to keep and bear arms. We are winning. I do believe that. I've been covering the Second Amendment on a daily basis since 2004, and like the old Virginia Slims ad used to say, you've come a long way, baby. We have come a long way. We have a long way to go, but I want to keep that winning streak going. And part of that means, again, forging these alliances, becoming a stronger Second Amendment community so that we can not only defend the rights that we haven't lost, but we can regain those that have been taken from us. Thank you for doing everything that you're doing to make that possible. Thank you again for listening to me today after what I know has been a very long and busy day. If we have any questions, I am happy to take them, but I am also happy to let you hit the bar and the hotel, restaurant, wherever you want to go.
Wow, we're getting really bad feedback. Hello, check test 1, 2.
Cancel that.
1.
Other than turning them off, I don't know how to cancel. Let's try this.
Yep. Audio check. Enough, we're still getting bad feedback.
Only on this line.
I've got both mic. Kill the God mic.
Kill the God mic. God mic is off.
Okay.
Here.
Audio test. Audio check. I don't know. And
Let's try.
we come up. And do we have audio check, audio test? Test, check 1, 2.
It's coming from somewhere in the. I got it. Here. Does that work?
Test, check 1, 2. All right, I think we're just gonna go ahead. We're gonna have to let Cam go. John, bring up a solo of me.
How do I make the solo of you?
Let's thank him.
This guy here, with that. Over here. With that one. Otherwise, all right, yeah, let's go ahead and try bringing it up again. And why? Let me bring up audio mixer. On the very right. There you go. Alright, now I should be clear, we should be able to come up easily. As we get out of here, guys, I don't even really need the microphone, I've got a pretty good voice. As we get out of here, guys, I want just 3 or 4 people in about 30 minutes. We got to move every bit of technology that's here, has got to go across the hall and get reset up again. Just need some people to help carry and stuff. If you're willing, God bless you, come back in about 30 minutes. Thank you today for attending. Thank you everybody for being an advocate, like Cam said. Look, you are going to reach people I'm not. You're going to reach people Amanda's not. Don't quit, keep pushing, and we'll see you next year from wherever GRPC and Amm-Con is at.
Survey.